music's getting me ready for summer vacation. Almost there. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 6th Mount Carmel Hall of Fame ceremony. I am your MC tonight. My name is Sean Carter. I am a 1995 graduate of Mount Carmel. I am on the Hall of Fame committee, and I am currently a PE teacher, football and baseball coach here at Mount Carmel. Normally, our athletic director, Greg Lanthier, would be emceeing tonight, but he's not able to make it, so he's asked me to do it. And I'm very excited to be here. It's going to be a fantastic program. There's several sayings out there that describe the culture here at Mount Carmel. Once a Sun Devil, always a Sun Devil. It's great to be a Sun Devil. And one of my favorites that was been coined by Hall of Famer Tom McKinney, Sun Devil forever. These are not just words on a wall, but they have meaning. The friendships we make here, the memories and experiences are like no other high school. That's why we're here today, to celebrate those that shared in those memories. We are all connected as Sun Devils. So I just want to mention some of the inductees and their connection, and then we'll get on with the program. I'm going to start with Duke. You played center here at Mount Carmel, and I played center here at Mount Carmel. Probably saw me play and was like, yeah, I want to be like that guy. Yeah, probably not. But anyway, your dad, I remember your dad making t-shirts for everybody, and growing up on Prairie Dog, across from the Dermodys. And I was talking last night to Hall of Famer Marcus Lee. You learned to swim in his pool, right? Mike, you became a teacher, a coach, a principal, administrator, and I'm sure everything that you learned here at Mount Carmel, you took with you and you tried to instill in your students. Ruby, you loved it here so much, just like some of us, you came back, right? You came back to be a coach here. Coach Jay, health yeah! You were my outside linebacker coach. A lot of people know Coach Jay. Him and Coach Treader were in the plus 300 bench press club. I'm at 292 right now, Coach. I'm almost there. You've touched a number of lives in your 33 years here at Mount Carmel. Ken, not a lot of people maybe know who you are, but every student at Mount Carmel and everyone in this audience knows about the yellow banner, right? The yellow banner in the gym that signifies state championship. It's not like the others, right? It's not like the others. Linda, you live 3,000 miles away from here. However, you're still connected because your brother works here and is the track coach. You can't get away. You can't move far away enough. Blaine, Mr. Felony and I, we grew up 5 houses down from each other on Trail Dust. There must have been 20 different Sun Devils that lived on that street. His brother Brian, also a Hall of Famer, played football here, and he had another brother who played water polo and a sister who played softball. Donnie. Well, I should say it like this. Donnie. Okay. Anybody who ever played football for Coach Joel knew who Donnie Gassaway was. Ray. The stories they tell about Ray. Kids who watched Ray play football wanted to be like Ray. That was before Be Like Mike. They wanted to be like Ray. They wanted to be Ray. Mikey. Yeah, that's what we used to call you. Mikey is the younger brother of my classmate Josh. He's now a Hall of Famer and one of the best runners in the history of Mount Carmel. And Coach Joel. Boys, huh? Bludgeon blue. Hey, buddy, get in push-up position. Okay. You could not have played football here and not been put in push-up position by Coach Joel. Not possible. Half the school here has probably also taken driver's ed from you. MC is really a family. We're related through the Sun Devil spirit. We have a great group of inductees tonight, and so let's get it started. How this is going to go is you're going to get called up. You'll give your little speech, no matter how short or long it is. And then when you're finished, I have Hall of Fame sweatshirt, says member on it. And then you're going to get your plaque that's hanging currently in the Hall of Fame. So this is yours to take home, and there's one hanging in the Hall of Fame. So when we're all done here, we'll walk over to the Hall of Fame, and you can take your family through and see all the things. Okay? And then as you exit, Miss Bose, Dr. Bose, our principal, she will be shaking your hand. So don't get nervous when a woman comes out of the crowd to shake your hand. So, okay. Quick note before I forget, because like Coach Jay says, I did duck a lot as a kid. The shirts are not in size. I'm just going to hand you a shirt. If you need a different size afterwards, we have plenty. We'll just exchange. But I didn't put them in sizes, okay? So that's just a little side note. All right. Our first inductee tonight is going in on the athletics side. So we have athletics, contribution, and achievement. Okay, so we have 3 different categories. Our first inductee is going in on the athletics side. He was a 2-sport varsity letter winner in football and baseball here at Mount Carmel. He is one of only 4 Mount Carmel students to play in the NFL, and the only one to be drafted. A 4th-round pick by the Buffalo Bills. Along with the Bills, he played with the Green Bay Packers, the Dallas Cowboys, and is currently the VP of player engagement for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A friend of Tom Brady and a Super Bowl champion. Please welcome inductee, Mr. Duke Preston.
Well, I first just want to start by saying thank you to the Hall of Fame committee and the people who put this on, just for the opportunity that it is, right? I mean, I think in life it's seldom that we get to go back and be remembered for the things that we've done. So I think this is it's an amazing thing. I don't know, I had big dreams, right? I grew up on Prairie Dog, like Sean said. I was an alumni of the first league that I ever played in, the Prairie Dog Football League. We called it PDFL. We wrote with spray paint cans. We had the yard markers lined up on the curbs. The Strachan boys, if you remember them, they're Sun Devil alums. And Greg, the oldest brother, used to make me and Joe Mueller go and play tackle football at Twin Trails Park. We were the biggest ones and the most capable, so he said, come on, you're going. We used to look at each other and say, look, don't get hurt, right? Let's just figure out a way not to get hurt. Matt Strachan was the first punch I ever took me square in the jaw. I called him soup, and that was too much. And Jeff was my first mentor, really, older boy that kind of took me under his wing and kind of helped me along the way. But before I was a Sun Devil, I was enthralled with the idea of being one. I was a kid who was sitting in the stands all the way down to the right. That's where all the cool kids were in the stands. I went to Kamen camps. I got to see Coach Kamen today. Watching guys like Russ Hinos, Marlon Carey, the Giambi brothers, Frank and Mike, Craig Casey, Ricky Sharp, Jamal Felton. I remember watching guys in the stretch lines and doing hands on hips and two sticks, and I just thought that was the coolest thing in the world. In baseball side, I was at Jack Murphy when they won CIF with the likes of Eric Chavez, Eric Munson, Greg Bochy, Mark Turan. I got to be friends with those guys. They used to work me out at 24 Hour Fitness when I was getting ready to leave. I remember sitting in this auditorium and watching Guys and Dolls when I was like 8. And it was the first play that I'd ever seen. I was like, this is the coolest thing in the world. I also remember being in this auditorium, and it was a famous line, Coach Johnson, what color is our urine supposed to be? What's the answer? Clear. You'd make somebody stand up. What's your pee supposed to be? It was outstanding. And I think reflecting on being here today, I just remember I couldn't wait to be on this campus. I remember the Sun Devil Walk. I remember the walk to Black Mountain as freshmen because they didn't have a field for us to practice. So we used to have to walk with the baseball team over to the top field at Black Mountain. Coach Scott Wood was one of the most unbelievable coaches I had. He used to make us throw 90 feet. And if you dropped the ball or you made the bad throw, you had to take off to the far backstop. And it was like miles. And as the fat kid, it was the worst thing in the world. My buddies that are here today, they used to have to root me on doing our conditioning. We ran for fun playing baseball. I remember running dips until I could puke, running stars, poles, and every other combination of unnecessary running for baseball. It was unbelievable. I remember running the heart drill on Mondays, and I don't know how effective that was. I hated it, Coach Joke. I don't know if I hated it. I'll leave it at that. My football teammates, Mike Clark, Christian Hodges, Rory Palmer, John Rossetti, Cameron Casper, Fred Ellis, Riley Murphy. I loved playing with those guys. I loved being in the fight with them. My baseball guys, Casey Chavez, Joe Ramos, Mike Carter. I remember I was catching a game, and Mike Carter was on the mound, and he gave up a home run that basically put the game out of reach. And Mike was a hothead. And I go out to the mound, and he said, I'm hitting the next guy. I said, okay, Mike, you got it. And I get back behind the dish, and I give him the sign. I won't make it. My kids are here. And he plunks the dude. And I jump up, and kid takes a look at him. I said, whoa, buddy. Go down to first. You got it. You're okay. He wasn't big enough to really handle what I was ready to put on him. But Joel Rillo, Nick Roth, I had so much fun playing ball with you guys. So much fun testing ourselves and seeing what we would be made out of. My friends that are here, Dylan Cannon, Matt couldn't make it, Jeff Vasco, Josh Chipman, my day one friend, Brian Hamilton, who I think nominated me for this. We used to go hit balls early in the morning. He'd come pick me up. We'd get out there at 6:30. We'd go in the cages and just rip balls, see how good we could be, see what we could make out of ourselves. And I'll never forget the end of his career. He backed me up his whole career. And I was going on to Illinois and playing football there. And so he started the last week of the season, hit 2 home runs, running the bases, pumping his fist. We were like, dude, slow down, enjoy it. But man, I love you, Bo. It was awesome. My coaches here, Coach Johnson, Coach Joke, Coach Polson, who I got to see, Coach Bolt, who had the forethought to make me play center. I remember getting so mad. I was like, dude, I'm just getting good at this right guard spot. You're going to move me again? And I moved to center, and just so happened that ended up being my best position going on into college and playing in the NFL. I want to thank my college coach, Harry Heastan. He's the toughest man that I've ever been around and the hardest coach that I've ever had to be work for and work under. But this place prepared me for it. I was ready for those challenges. Obviously, my parents, my dad and mom couldn't make it today, but my dad was such a huge influence in my life. Him playing 9 years with the Chargers and being the man that he was, what he showed me. I love what Sean shared, remembering making T-shirts. I actually got to go to my childhood house and got to go in with my kids. I hadn't been in it since 2009. My kids had never been in it. And I'm walking around and seeing where my dad used to stand in the garage and just sweat. My dad was the most humble man that I've ever met. We didn't have much, but he ended up actually even working for the census, going door to door, knocking on people's doors to put food on our table. I love my dad. My mom, I'll talk about her more in a second, as my rock. I want to thank my kids, Maya, Raymond, Deacon, and Libby. They were inspirations for me before they were born. I used to be down at 24-Hour Fitness doing sets of bench, and my last reps, I would rep them out, and I'd say, this one's for my first kid, this one's for my first son, this one's for my first daughter. And I always wanted to be a great dad. That was one of my big passions in life, was just being a dad. So thank you guys for being who you are, for being my kids, for pushing me even now to be the kind of man that I want to be. I want to say thank you to my wife, Kavanaugh, who stepped into my life and pulled me out of some dark days, the darkest of my life, and has held me up and loved me in a way that I never could imagine existed. And for the way that you've stepped in, sweetheart, to help guide and shepherd these 4 kids is outstanding, and I can't thank you enough for that. My foundation here at Mount Carmel, and just in my life, right, has always been about adversity and my faith. We weren't really successful on the football field here, and I think about my life and relationship with football. I mean, I was 3-7 my last 2 years here when I was on varsity. I had a 1-11 season at Illinois. Never made the playoffs except for 1 year in my 5 years playing. And then my first 5 seasons at Tampa Bay, never made the playoffs, right? The adversity piece and the faith side of what I've built my life on, and where I feel like God has created me to be the man that I am, it just makes me think of one of my favorite passages my mom used to always share with me, James 1:3, and it says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance." It talks about producing endurance, right? And I would say I was a kid who strangely dealt with a lot of fear, right? I was afraid of failing. I was afraid of getting pushed around. I was afraid just in general. And I remember one time we got to go down to Canyon View or Canyonside, where I played Little League Baseball. And standing on that mound made me emotional because I had a game where I was pitching and I was scared to death. And my mom pulled me in the bedroom and she read this passage to me. She said, "So we may boldly say, the Lord is my helper, I will not fear. What can man do to me?" And I remember feeling like someone turned a hot shower on over my head, and I felt the presence of the living God moving in me. And I remember standing on the mound that day and saying, like, man, this is real. This is something that's flowing through me. And I mowed those kids down that day, man. And so I grew to love the battle. I grew to love the fight and the fires. I think this place helped me prepare for the hard things, like going to a place like Buffalo, New York, where it snows, and I'm a California kid. We used to get fined for wearing sleeves in games. It was $1,000 a quarter if you wore sleeves. I never got fined. I liked my money, right? But I froze my tail off. Used to have to block a guy like Sam Adams, block for a guy like Marshawn Lynch, come off the bench and have to go mess with a dude like Vince Wilfork, a future Hall of Famer. I could thank him for my back being in the condition that it is. But I want to finish with this, and if it's an encouragement, but I think it just wraps up maybe my story and my heart and my spirit and my life. But I get to work now with professional ball players, and it's a privilege to be in that seat. I work with guys like Tom, like Mike Evans, Antonio Brown, Shaquille Barrett, you name it. I've gotten to be around some of the best of the best of the best. And there's a clip that I've used at times with them, and it's this old boxing trainer, Teddy Atlas. He's fighting a guy named Timothy Bradley, and he's yelling at him in the corner, and he's talking about them being firemen, right? And that we move the fire, we tell it where to sit, we tell it where to go, and ultimately we tell it when to go out. That we're comfortable in the fire, right? That we can last in the fire because we're built for that, right? At my church, we're going through a series on the book of Daniel, and I've been just on this story and this passage, and if you're familiar with it, it's the three Hebrew boys that get thrown into the fire, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And that story, the Bible makes it really clear. There's 9 times where Nebuchadnezzar talks about his gold statue that's set up, set up, set up, set up. And so I think one of the themes that is don't fall for the setup, that life is hard. I was talking with my friends at the reception last night, guys like Zach, women like Katie and Danielle, that life is hard, man. Ain't nobody coming to get you most of the time, right? It's great to have friends. It's great to have people like this that help and come alongside us, but life is difficult. So when the setup comes and we're tempted to take a knee and take the easy way out, I think one of the things that I have had the privilege of seeing God do and my Savior Jesus Christ move in my heart and my life is that there's promises when we stand. There's promises when we push back against the setup. And in that story, if you know how it finishes, they throw him down into the fire. And in the fire, a 4th person appears, and they walk out. Right? The fire burns, but it doesn't touch them. And if you think back, if you know your word at all, in Isaiah 43, there's a passage that predates that book of Daniel or that time by a couple hundred years. And in Isaiah 43, it says, "Fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by your name. You are mine. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and through the rivers, they shall not overflow you. When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned." It's, I don't know, serendipitous or funny being a follower of Jesus Christ with some sun devils on my back. At the same time, I've learned in my life of almost 41 years that when we go through the fires, even pursuing CIF championships and Super Bowls, that in it with us is the promise maker. And in it with us is his presence. And despite all the prizes, despite all the things that we can achieve, his presence is the prize. And I'm so thankful for this place in grooming me and setting a foundation under my feet where I can walk through the fires. And I've been tested by those days, but I know I have a Savior that walks with me and keeps me upright. I wonder what it was like to be in that fire with him, but I think in some ways, this place and the life that I've lived has given me that picture. So I'm forever thankful for this place, for my foundation, for my friends, for this opportunity today, for my family, for the fires, and for my faith, and for my Savior, the Lord Jesus Christ. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Okay, our next inductee is going in on the achievements side. He started out being a high school PE teacher.
as well as a football and basketball coach at Princeton High School in Chico. In '93, he moved to Rockland, where he became athletic director and eventually principal. He also moved up to assistant superintendent of the Rockland Unified School District. But that's not all. There are over 1,300 high schools in the state of California. There are only 11 CIF commissioners. Only one of them has the title of the longest active commissioner. That man is Hall of Fame inductee, Mr. Mike Garrison.
Start with something a little bit different here. How many of you guys remember? That's circa 1981, 82. That's the song we used to warm up to every basketball game. And cheerleaders would do their routine, and Ray Nicholas would be the one guy. He knew every single move that the cheerleaders made. He tried to teach us to them in that back room. We'd be warming up. He'd do that whole clapping thing where they do. It's the best thing in the world. We could never get it down. He was really good about that, though. He was absolutely excellent at that. But I kind of want to start that, get me in the frame of mind. You know, one of the things for me, I haven't been back on this campus. It's been a long time. After I graduated and went on to play basketball in college, I really never came back. And that's not because of the family, the Sun Devil way. I'll explain a little bit about that, my journey and moving forward in my professional career. But you know, a very important piece which guided me through my life. Before I get to that, though, I have to say I am sincerely humbled and honored to join us. I was looking at the calendar. I mean, I watched all the videos. I did my homework, so I tried to watch all the videos, take a look at those, and then seeing all the people that have been inducted into the Hall of Fame here at Mount Carmel. You know, it's just really humbling, and the acceptance that I take today is not about me. It's about the people that were around me my entire life that helped mold me. And for example, talking about this class, I mean, you have seven just absolutely outstanding athletes. Some of you I didn't know. Obviously, I'm a little bit older. You know, I'm glad to see that there is one person or two people that are a little bit older than me here today that are being inducted. So it made me feel a little bit better. Ken with the class of 1980, and Mr. Joe as well. That made me feel a little bit better. But you have seven just absolutely outstanding athletes from football to basketball to golf to cross country to gymnastics, and I hope you're not offended by the Steeler thing here, so Preston. Although you did have a former Steeler player that you talked about that you worked with. And a person under an achievement today, that a commander, a fighter pilot, you know, and it just makes me feel like, wow, what did I do compared to what that person has done? Blaine, I don't know where you're at out there, wherever you're at. But I want to thank you in remembrance of Memorial Day, too. I want to thank you for your service. I am a military brat. I grew up in a military family. I'll talk a little bit about that here in a moment. But thank you for your service, and I'm in awe at what Blaine has done. And then what I honestly believe probably really the most important piece, and maybe it's because of what I've done in my career, is those people under the contribution area. You have two inductees, and Mr. Jolk and Mr. Johnson, both who were here when I was here, you know, you stop and think about that piece in a Hall of Fame and the putting together of a Hall of Fame, because athletes are always going to go in, you know, but why are athletes going to go in? It's because those people on the contribution side and what they do for kids. And so, you know, it's just, again, them and all the other people that I looked at, I just, again, I feel extremely humbled to be here and part of that. I'm part of this. I want to thank Greg Lanther and Sean, first time I've gotten to meet you. But Greg had the vision to put something like this together. You know, and his work in doing that, as well as the Hall of Fame committee and the Achievement Committee, who particularly, I guess, looked at my stuff and decided to make that decision to allow me to come in. Those people are currently there, and those people who previously served on those committees. A couple of those people I got to meet last night and have nice conversations with. It was fun getting to talk with them. But honestly, when you stop and think about something like this, with the history of Mount Carmel, putting something like this together, the magnitude in which doing something like that, the development of something like that, and then the implementation, it's an insurmountable amount of work. And I will tell you, as a former high school athletic director, which I got to do a little bit of that in my former high school, and there's some parallels between where I was at and this school in the early days that I'll speak to here in a minute. It's just to see that and see that work. I want to thank all of them for what they've done to bring us all together in these types of environments to be able to talk about these things and share. So thank you guys very much for that, those of you that are committee members in here. Some other thank yous, my family. My parents, unfortunately, they're not able to be here with me today. My whole family left California a couple years ago and elsewhere. My parents aren't really able to travel much anymore. But my growing up, my parents were not athletes. I was really the first one in my family that kind of started to dabble in the athletic world. But what I will tell you is that that foundation that my parents developed and helped build for me, particularly my dad, watching him over the years and the hard work that he put in. My dad joined the Navy at 19 years old. Him and my mom got married at 18. Had me at 19, moved to California, and were by themselves and made it. But watching my dad, do what he did, you know, and the hard work that he put in, and he showed me that if you work hard, good things will happen. My dad was one of the very last LDOs. And if you know what that means, it's called a limited duty officer. My dad joined the military, like I said, as an 18-year-old enlisted first class. He retired from the military as a lieutenant commander with the Frogs as a supply officer. But it's because of the work that he put in all those years. So I appreciate that, sorry. But taught me the value of hard work. My brother and my sister, both graduates of Mount Carmel, and their support over all the years, being there for me and us being together and doing the things that we did. My 2 kids, Megan and Tyler, both of them are post-secondary educators right now at the collegiate level. They always keep me in check. Actually, my son's comment to me when we told him, that this happened, I think his comment was, "Hey, Dad, it's a good thing you put all that work in, that you worked so hard because you never was going to make it as an athlete anyways." I was like, oh, thank you, son. I really appreciate that. He followed that up with a very nice message, but he's quite the accomplished soccer player, played high school and collegiate soccer, so he does have a leg up on me on that as an athlete. And then my wife. My biggest supporter. 38 years we've been married. Actually 44 years because I met her as a 16-year-old, high school. She's a Mount Carmel High graduate. We're high school sweethearts. She's been by my side the entire time. Remember high school, setting up in the stands, rooting us on, being there for us, yelling and screaming. Actually, even my days of coaching, I remember being in the gym one time and I'm yelling at my basketball players a play, and I hear this echo in the gym. I'm like, what? I just called a play. Where'd that come from? I look up in the stands, my wife yelling the same play. So she's always been there. Love you, thank you. And she's a big reason why I'm here, because she's the one who filled out the application and said, hey, we're doing this. So, to my high school coaches and teachers, and I said, one of the things I said is there's a foundation to this, to your development, and it's a story. And my story goes kind of like these individuals were instrumental. Again, my parents built that foundation and started that foundation, but these people, and this is a small list, there's a whole bunch of others, I don't want to name, I can't name all of them, but it all started with Jim Shambach. Jim was a Black Mountain teacher in junior high, and he kind of got me started. I didn't pick up a basketball until 7th grade. So that was 2 years before I stepped on this campus. So I wasn't an accomplished athlete, but he kind of helped me see the light and kind of started that off for me. And then I came up to Mount Carmel, Sam Blaylock, who was my freshman coach, Tony Goffredo, who was my JV coach, Tom McKinney, who didn't really coach me, but we had wars in the gym at lunchtime every single day, playing, and those were always great times. And funny story, we talk about the Sun Devil Way and the connection. Tom's daughter Megan, who was a little cheerleader back in the day when their little uniforms, and Tom did his induction thing, came up here and showed that uniform. I got to hire Megan as a teacher for me at Rockland High School. So she worked for me for a year. I worked for our school, not for me, for our school and for our students for a whole year. And then no family there, she left. But what a great young lady, and a tribute to Tom and his wife. And but again, that's that small world. But Tom, Barb Shalabaugh, Dennis McClanahan, Jerry Shabola, Gordy Mills, Doug Welch, and then my high school basketball coach, John Rankovich, and Mr. Jensen, Mr. Truesdale. All of those people had an influence on me somehow, some way. And I don't know that we really realize those things until you step into your adult life. There was probably things, John and I probably didn't always see eye to eye on some things, obviously. I was a young teenager, thought I knew it all at the time, but some of the lessons that he taught me, I've taken in my personal life, in my professional life, in my journey through education for the last 35 years. but they mold me, those things like, I remember we used to run those suicides. I hated them. Talk about the conditioning stuff. Yeah, I agree. Unnecessary sometimes. But I hated those as well. I couldn't believe it. But you know what that taught me? It's that day when I was a principal, and I had a parent, or I had somebody that, just was causing a little bit of a problem, I would say. And you just wanted to give up. It's kind of like when you were running those sprinters and those liners, and you wanted to give up. And you just said, no, keep going. Keep going. Keep going. And that's, you take those and you push those into your professional life, and I same thing. No, we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep going. The foundation that was built here, and I got to come in the early years because the school opened in 1975. So 4 years later, 4.5 years later, I was on the precipice of that beginning of Mount Carmel and that family unit. I was very lucky as moving from Chico to going to Sacramento and being at Rockland High School, kind of starting that same thing with the young staff. And working with the young staff, and that development that Mount Carmel has talked about, I see that transition, or that same thing at Rockland High School where I was at as a teacher and a coach, and then the administration and principal and then assistant superintendent, and that's so important in the development. And I used to preach and talk about that. Is that, hey, 45 years from now, 50 years from now, just understand that the foundation that we're building and that you people are building, you teachers and coaches are building, is going to last a lifetime for people. And I it kind of comes full circle being here today and seeing that and talking with people and being involved with people with the Hall of Fame and here today. So that journey's been absolutely amazing. Last thing is the role that I'm in today as the commissioner of the CI Sacramento section. So there are 10 sections in the state of California, and only because Rob Wygod, who's the southern section commissioner, just is retiring, I get to be considered the oldest now. So, what I'd say, and I want to circle back to the contribution piece that I was talking about. The value, the hard work, the hours, the sacrifices that our teachers and coaches put in for kids. I've seen it for 35 years. I've watched some teachers ruin marriages because of it, and I mean that from the standpoint of working over, putting their students and their school ahead of everything else. I don't know that people outside the world of education that aren't inside that world, that see what these people go through day in and day out, and they're willing to put it on the line every single day for kids and open their hearts and be there. They're not just teachers, they're not just coaches, they're parents, they're counselors, they're psychologists, and they deal with all those things. So those individuals that Mr. Joe, Mr. Johnson, and anybody else who's gone in under the contribution, I want to especially congratulate you for being put in that way, because I can think of no greater honor than being inducted that way. So thank you for your work for the kids in your communities and the kids of California. And again, I'd just like to thank everybody for letting me be here. I was going to play last song. It's probably not appropriate simply because as a CIF commissioner, I should never play the song that we used to play in high school, which was Another One Bites the Dust, but I'm going to leave it at that.
Great hair, by the way. That photo.
Oh, yeah, that's the 1980s here, absolutely.
That's great.
Okay.
Okay, moving over to the athletics side. Our next inductee is going in under athletics. The school has a phenomenal history of having great gymnastics, great gymnast, and she's no exception. CIF champion in the beam, CIF champion in the vault, 3-time CIF champion in the uneven bars, 2-time all-around CIF champion. She's chosen to return to her alma mater and is currently helps gymnastics, coach the gymnastics team here at the Mount. Please welcome Hall of Fame inductee, Miss Ruby Harrison.
This is such a great honor. I would have never thought that I would ever be up here, but I just want to thank my friends and family who've supported me over the years. I know it was stated earlier that I just couldn't get enough of Mount Carmel, so I came back to coach, and that's true, and that's the same for my family as well. You can see my dad and my boyfriend here as well at the Mount Carmel gymnastics meets too, so I drag them along, and they love to watch the meets as well, so I want to thank them. And then I also want to thank my coaches, especially Coach LT and Kevin, and I was going to go into this whole thing about LT and how she was the reason why I'm here, but sorry LT, Kevin reminded me and everyone else yesterday that he is the reason why I'm up here, and he's the reason why I did so well in gymnastics, so Kevin will get that honor today. So, but I think Kevin sells himself short because he was such an amazing coach and he was so supportive. You can always trust him to be there when you needed a spot or just to build you up. Always knew exactly what to say in every moment. Very reliable. He knows, he didn't know much about gymnastics, but he knows how to compete. So that was something I definitely learned from him. And how to accomplish goals, how to build goals, but also accomplish them in the way that you can. And he also knew how to absolutely kill us in conditioning as well. We were always afraid when Kevin used to stand in the corner and take his journal out. We were worried about what he was writing, and it was usually, something very difficult that would make us sore the next day. So, and when he took the ladder out, we were like, oh no, we know what's going on. We're about to do some running. So, thank you, Kevin, for your support in gymnastics. It was really very helpful, and I'm really grateful. My experience in gymnastics wasn't always a positive one. I did club prior to coming to high school gymnastics and had some negative experiences there, and actually going into high school, I wasn't sure that I even wanted to do it anymore. In fact, I was determined that I wasn't going to do it. But I came, and my freshman year, I remember I was sitting in my math class, and my teacher said, oh, you're being summoned outside. And if you know me now, you know I was probably freaking out and thought that I thought of the worst possible thing. Oh, they're done with me, I'm expelled or something. But I went outside, and there were two girls there that I didn't know at the time, but would eventually become my teammates. And they said, you should really come and do gymnastics. And I had actually competed with them in clubs, so they weren't like just random strangers that came to come and talk to me. But, and I told them, I said, no, I'm not really that interested. I'll think about it, but it's not really, I didn't really have that in mind for when I came to Mount Carmel. And I said, I don't know who this LT lady is, but just tell her I'm not interested. And I thought that was the end of it, and that she took the hint. But if you know LT, spoiler alert, she didn't take the hint. So, she kept asking, and then I was like, all right, I'll try it out. And I'm just so grateful to her that she did, and that she was persistent, and that I was able to join the team and meet everyone. And if you know LT, you know that she's very special. She's a very special human being. And she just makes you feel like you matter. So everyone that knows her knows that she will, in a sea of people, she will make sure that you are seen and that you are heard. And that's something that I just respect her for so much. I'm so grateful to her for not, giving up. Throughout the seasons, it's been difficult trying to get over that hurdle of not wanting to get back into gymnastics, but she made it such a warm experience, and just how everyone has been talking about so far, just the experience of being at Mount Carmel and being a Sun Devil is being welcomed and being treated like you matter. And everyone was just so welcoming on the team. It really was a family. It still is a family. Everyone you competed for the person next to you. It was never about you. It was always about the team. So that was something that I really respected, and it was a different experience than what I had gotten in club sports. So that's another reason why I came back and have the honor of coaching next to LT because of that. And that's something that I also take into my professional career as well as a nurse. I deal with a lot of families, a lot of new families, and I always just want to make sure that everyone feels welcomed and that I treat them the same way that I would want my family to be treated. So it's very special feeling to be back here and to get to experience what I felt on a team and get to share that with the other athletes. So overall, I'm just thankful for the experiences that I had at Mount Carmel, and for everyone that crossed my path, whether it was a teacher, coach, or an athlete, another gymnast. It's just made my experience so much more special, and I'll cherish all the moments that I had. So, thank you.
In the light.
Okay, in the light.
Okay, I've been told to remind you all that this is being recorded, so this is like going down in archive history. And so to make sure that you speak into the mic so the camera can pick it up, if you need to move around, the mic comes off, and feel free to take it out of there and move around. All right, our next inductee. The Godfather of MC. He's one of the original faculty members. He was a health teacher, PE coach, football coach, mentor, husband, father, and a friend. I'm sorry. He loved kids. He loved teaching. He used to have a saying, all kids are good, some better than others. But he always saw the good in kids, and that's what they loved about him. I love him for it. He's my friend and my mentor. Going in on the achievement side of the Hall of Fame, please welcome inductee, Coach Glenn Johnson.
I woke up this morning and put on Led Zeppelin. Cranked it up to 10 because I love this feeling. Being around Mount Carmel Sun Devils and being part of this again. It's a great day to be a Sun Devil. Thank you, Mount Carmel. I'm honored and humbled. Sean Carter, Art Green, thank you. My education, growth, and personal development as a teacher, as a coach, as a man, happened with the help and encouragement of my family, my friends, and my teachers and coaches, and the Mount Carmel community of students, parents, and faculty and coaches. We do indeed touch each other's lives. We are products of a lifetime of experiences, events, and relationships. For 33 years, I got to surround myself with happy, healthy, inspiring Sun Devils. Their parents, their teachers, the classrooms, the teams, the community, the clubs, the organization. It was a great day to be a Sun Devil. The Sun Devil way these are clip notes. Here we go. In 1976, the culture and traditions were being established at Mount Carmel. Loyalty, love, trust. They make a great family, they make a great community, and they make a great high school like Mount Carmel. I wanted to be here. We wanted to be here. We look forward to being here. Ron Treader and I, we get up at old dark 30, get our runs in, get a little lift in, get in a Datsun 310 four-wheel or clutch shifters, and we hit every other bump on Black Mountain Road. Flying here. I drove that thing as hard as I could for as long as I could until the shocks blew up through the undercarriage. Those jackrabbit shocks. But we wanted to be here. All Sun Devils were connected. We belonged to each other. Mount Carmel was a joyful school. The energy, smiles, the hugs. It was just fun to be here. There were no ordinary moments. Well, we learned, all of us, students, teachers, coaches, we learned to leave no doubt in our hearts about our efforts. The Sun Devil way. Come to school with energy and motivated to get better. All students' learning was in the first sentence of the Mount Carmel mission statement. I was proud to be part of two programs in the beginning. The team program and the opportunity program. We were there to help students stop disappointing themselves, to help Sun Devils start valuing themselves. And it was a quest that we were on, a journey that we were going to do together. And all it was giving them some responsibility, giving them some trust, and let them be Sun Devils. We worked on things people can't take away from you. A mindset, a character, personality, a work ethic. Some fun. Ron and I had a couple of different stints of coaching football. And in the beginning, they were very particular about who had keys to anywhere on this campus. So we were part of the first football program, and there's a new staff coming in, so we had to give up our keys. The key to the weight room. Okay? So Coach Treader and I, him going to UCLA, and being the smart one, we figured out a way to get a weight room key back. So we started the weightlifting club. So they had to give us keys, and we opened up the key or the weight room at lunchtime, because we loved getting a little pump going for the afternoon. We wanted to finish strong the Mount Carmel day before we went out to practice. For the next 30 years, that weight room was open. We were banging Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, Jimi Hendrix, Eric Clapton. You couldn't hear yourself in there. Sun Devils and faculty members would come in. They'd work on big muscle groups, isolation exercises. They would bench, they would squat. We turned it into an event center. We would stop and celebrate that first 300-pound bench, that first 400-pound bench, that first 400-pound squat, that first 225-pound power clean. It was a place of a lot of fun, a lot of joy. We'd have Sun Devils sticking their heads in, they're eating lunch and looking what's going on in here. It was so much fun. In the beginning, when we got the keys, there was a certain department on campus that came in. Well, how'd you get those keys? These kids aren't dressed out. And we just let them talk, let them say their thing, and this is what we're going to do. Well, okay. So that was funny. I played Led Zeppelin on the way here. I told you guys that. I got out of the parking lot. I was pumped, focused, and ready to grind. Another fun thing we did was a slugfest. This was another thing that Ron and I were working on our masters in between our football coaching journeys at Point Loma. And part of the emphasis was supervision and administration. So we had to come up with something at Mount Carmel that we would supervise and administrate, start from the bottom, finish it all off, and document it all for our masters and our credential. I had a running buddy that was a Marine, Colonel, and he had and in on their ring at Camp Pendleton, we came up with the idea of a slugfest. The high school I went to, Venice High School, had an intramurals boxing program back when it could do that stuff. I went to Cal State LA, and they had an intramural boxing program. So why not do it here? We ran it by the board, insurance, releases, talked to the parents. Anyway, we got it off the ground. We had 12 bouts, seniors, juniors, sophomores, freshmen, paired up, same weight. For 6 weeks, they got to go to Bigham's gym and work out, and we put it on. You could not get another person in that gym for, well, I don't remember how many years we did it, because I didn't duck enough when I was little. Huh, Sean? Anyway, it was so much fun. The Sun Devils, I got to tell you, from all over the campus, some I didn't know, didn't play any sports. When they got in the ring, they knew what to do. They let those hands fly, and they were fighting the Sun Devil way, which is right through the front door with that straight right. We did that, I'm thinking going on 4 years, we maybe got to 7 years. And one night, one of the Sun Devils walked into one. Oh my gosh. We got called that Monday in to the district office. Sit down. No, he's okay. Everything's okay. His parents aren't going to sue the district. Yada, 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 yada. But they finished that. That was a slugfest. That was so much fun. We didn't think anything after that. The point is, I just want to leave you Sun Devils with one thing I got from Ted Lasso. Sun Devils, don't you dare settle for fine. Thank you.
For those of you who didn't go to school here, that was pretty much every day in Coach Johnson's class. I was just sitting over there thinking about all the sayings, effort equals achievement, pump focus, ready to grind. So all the lasting things that he had put on this school. Okay. This inductee is without question the best golfer to play here at Mount Carmel. He's a CIF champion, a state champion. He played golf at the University of Pacific, where he was the Pacific Coast Conference Player of the Year, 3-time NCAA All-American. He's in the University of Pacific Hall of Fame, the West Coast Conference Hall of Fame, and now, most importantly, the Mount Carmel Hall of Fame. Not many people can say they shot a 72 at Pebble Beach when they were 17 years old, but this guy can. Athletics inductee, Mr. Ken Earl.
And Greg and his family were Little League and football coaches and friends back in the 70s. It's a long time ago. So it was over 50 years we've known the Lanthier family, and really proud of what he's put together here at Mount Carmel as the Hall of Fame. For me personally, my family set a foundation for us to go to school. I had 2 brothers and a sister, all came to Mount Carmel. In fact, Coach Joe coached my brother Ted, who was 1 year older, in football for many years, and he loved it here. He set the path for me to come here, and he played baseball and football. I played basketball and golf. So we kind of split it up, and we're really involved in a lot of different sports. So as many people have already said, the Mount Carmel was a very, very special place that I thoroughly enjoyed all 4 years of experience. The teachers, the coaches were extremely supportive. They were a young staff. We were, not many years younger than them. And they treated us, like very, very special people. They always were there in support and encouraged me to be my best, the best I could be. My freshman year, Coach Blaylock, who was also a member of the Hall of Fame, gave me an opportunity to play basketball. So I got to play basketball with Billy Bean. For those who know Billy Bean, it was a real honor. I knew then that I wasn't going to be a long-term basketball player. So I got to play basketball for a couple of years, my freshman and sophomore year. Coach Caruncio, he was my math teacher. He also was the golf coach that gave me an opportunity to play golf for 4 years on the varsity team. And his nickname was Scratch, not because he was a scratch golfer, but because he always had chalk on his pants. So I'll leave it at that. But we used to always, bet Diet Cokes and things like that with the other teammates. We took a lot of Diet Cokes from Coach Brentio at the golf course. But he put together a real cohesive team. He drove us to all the practices, which were off-site, so he had a big travel all, that I can't believe didn't break down multiple times. But he'd pile us in all of our golf clubs when we play either at Rancho Bernardo or at Carmel Mountain Ranch area. Mr. Mills was already mentioned, Gordy Mills. He brought me into his classroom. He was my calculus teacher, and we played backgammon. During breaks, in between classes, we would go in and play backgammon for, 20, 30 minutes, and he'd always let me win. So it was great. Mr. Bjorkquist, I got to know him at Black Mountain Middle School. He transferred over to Mount Carmel not long after I got here, and he was always very, very supportive, in the different clubs, sports, and ASB. Mrs. Clapperton was another, very special teacher for me. She encouraged me to look at UOP as a potential place to go to school, and it couldn't have been a better fit for me. It was a small school that she had attended, and I flew up to UOP. My senior year, wasn't recruited by anybody, and I got to meet the golf coach up there, Dr. Glenn Albaugh, and he was a great fit for me and the school. It turned out great. So we played Division I golf against all the major schools, and was fortunate to win several tournaments during my college career, one of which was here in San Diego at the SDSU Aztec tournament, so at Torrey Pines. So many other coaches and teachers have had an impact on me as both a student and athlete. The golf team that we had here, in the 1980, 1979, playing in CIF and going off and winning the state championship, it was just a really good group of guys. Craig Hall got inducted, I think, a couple of times ago. He was my teammate. Went to the Air Force Academy. Brian Mahon, several other people were just really good people and good golfers. So it made golf is individual, but as the other gymnasts said, it's really a team sport that makes it fun, and we all pushed each other. The opportunities for me to bond with the staff here really built the foundation for the rest of my life. And I couldn't be more thankful for that. It was very, very important. My parents gave us a great foundation coming into high school, and it just got better, with the teachers and the faculty that were here. Personally, it's helped in every aspect. The classroom, playing sports, and beyond have really had a big impact on my life. After Mount Carmel, things worked out well for me, I would have to say. Golf opened up many opportunities with friends and in the business world because of the golf. I got to marry my high school sweetheart. We got married in 1987, and we'll have our 37th anniversary here in August. So 2 of my children are here with me. I'm very thankful for their support. And, I was very fortunate to be their coach. I learned a lot of things good coaches did being coached here. And in my career, so I passed that on and coached for over 20 years with the different sports that my kids played. Very fortunate to have all 3 graduated. I got a raise a couple of years ago. My son graduated from San Diego State. So they're all living here in San Diego and working, and couldn't be more proud of them. So keep up the good work. We currently live in Scripps Ranch, so I'm sad to say I don't come over to Mount Carmel that much, but you'll see me more in the coming years for sure. And right now we're grand doggy parents, and someday hopefully we'll be grandparents. My oldest daughter, Andrea, couldn't make it today. She's at a wedding up in Northern California, so she just got married back in December. So fingers are crossed. So I still enjoy playing golf. Frequently I play usually once a week with family or friends, and it's just a great honor to be here. And thanks again for the Hall of Fame induction and nominating me to be here. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm moving right along here. Our next inductee holds the school record in the triple jump, even though she didn't even compete in track and field after her sophomore year. She's a CIF champion in track and basketball. She went on to play basketball at USD, where she led her team in rebounds. She's still listed in the top 10 of 6 categories at USD. All-time field goals, all-time field goal attempts, all-time rebounds per game, all-time blocks, and all-time blocks per game. She went on to Texas Law School and later became the assistant athletic director at Santa Clara University. She is currently the assistant athletic director at the University of Florida. In the SEC, it just means more. Please welcome the athletics inductee, Miss Linda Jones.
Good afternoon. It is, as everyone that has come up here said, an extreme honor to be here, to be inducted into this Hall of Fame. And it's really special for me. I'm not sure about the "it just means more" thing. I'm not sure if that was a jab or not, but we'll take that up after. As was mentioned, I've had the privilege of working in college athletics for 28 years. I'm currently Deputy Athletic Director at the University of Florida. I've been there for 20 years now, which seems hard to believe. And a real significant part of my job is to trying to avoid the feedback, is to create an environment where student athletes can really experience the very best lessons that sport has to offer. Learning about leadership, not only how to lead, but how to be led, toughness and resilience, grit, learning how to fail and come back from failure, learning how to be critiqued and take that information in and make yourself better, bonding and learning from teammates that are very different from you, come from different walks of life, and really understanding how to be selfless, putting the team goals ahead of your own statistics, your own achievements. And so a big part of what I do is really setting up an environment where that can exist, and that's in hiring and supporting our coaches, supporting and loving on our student athletes. And when I think about some of the best parts of sport, it's often around the pure joy that comes from participating. The really, really high highs. When you see a student athlete that has been injured and they come back from injury and they achieve something they never thought they could achieve. Winning championships, right? You've worked so hard for something for so long, and to come out ahead and achieve that. Athletics offers so many opportunities for joy. Also, there's a real chance for renewal in athletics. Every year, you start the year and you set goals. You get to start over, flush what happened in the past, and strive again to achieve something very special. So the feedback is, yeah, there we go. So I get to work in a setting where I get to experience really the very best of sport. And when I think about my time here at Mount Carmel, that really set the foundation for all that I do in my day-to-day job. I learned a lot of lessons here, gained some of the best friendships that I have. I learned how to be a leader. I found my voice here, how to advocate for myself, how to listen. Again, I learned how to fail here. Every day you go to practice, coach will find something that you have not done correct, right? So you will fail every single day, and you'll have to learn how to take in that information and make yourself better. I learned that here. I learned how to be courageous, run that race that you didn't really want to run. Coach signed you up for it anyway. Overcoming your fear of trying your very hardest and still coming up short. How to face that and face it every single day. I learned a lot about joy, being able to achieve things that I didn't think were possible, that were maybe firsts, either for me or for our program. I feel really blessed that I was able to achieve and feel that here at Mount Carmel. And, the timing of this is very special for me for a lot of reasons. And one, we just celebrated 50 years of Title IX across the country. We spent a lot of time honoring female athletes, women who work in sport. This is a time where we're hoping it's a movement, not a moment, when it comes to girls and women in sport, where, attendance records are being broken, television viewership, off the charts. And so, pardon me, to sort of have this honor after spending a year celebrating Title IX and really understanding how a lot of my experience here was really ahead of its time. We had coaches and administrators who poured into girls in sport here, celebrated achievements of our girls' teams like they did the boys' teams, which is horribly sort of politically incorrect now, but at the time, our basketball team, our nickname was Chick Hoops, right? It felt right at the time. But but really what that was I felt like we were saying, we are an attraction all into ourselves. This isn't the thing that's happening in the gym when the boys aren't playing basketball. This is something worthwhile to come out and watch all on its own. And our teachers and administrators really supported that. And we had people that made us feel important, and what we did was important. And I really try to bring that to my job every single day. We had a stretch at Florida where in the course of 6 years, we won 2 football championships, 2 men's basketball championships, 3 gymnastics championships, and 2 softball championships. And we celebrated each and every one of those exactly the same, right? Those athletes, their achievement, winning a national championship in those sports, we couldn't be more proud, couldn't have celebrated any of those any harder. And I think a lot of the foundation of that came from here. We were valued, we were appreciated, people came and supported us. And it meant everything. And I really do take that into my job every single day, trying to make our student athletes understand how important it is, what they do, how important they are as individual people. At the end of the day, I really just want to sort of reflect on, my time here and how foundational it was for me and what I was able to do. I never thought that I'd work in college athletics. It's been like this incredibly rewarding experience. I hope to continue doing it for another 20 years. But I don't think any of that would have been possible without my experience here and understanding what an impact sport could make on my life. It did make on my life. And the fact that I have a chance to now bring that to others is really special. I want to thank all the teachers and administrators here. I'm really disappointed that some of those that I was closest to are not here today. Mr. Levy is not here, Mr. Baldwin, Coach Robinson, who let 2 girls basketball players attend his boys basketball class and practice with the boys to get better. Coaches McClanahan and Samaras, my family. Through my high school experience, I wish everyone could have had a cheerleader in their corner like I did my brother Sean. There wasn't anybody that was more supportive, more loving, and I thank you for that. Families that I was close to. Geraldine Kemp and her family, Nicole Nicholas and her family took me in and just celebrated our accomplishments together, and I'm truly, truly grateful. So again, this is a huge honor. I really do appreciate it, and thank you, Mount Carmel, for appreciating boys and girls sports the way that you have. It really has been impactful. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we're going to take a little break, stretch our legs, about 10. How many minutes, Coach, you want? 10 minutes. All right, take a little 10-minute break, go to the restroom, and we'll be back. Thank you. Man, the stories I could tell you about this next inductee. I mentioned earlier, we lived down the street from each other, about 5 houses down. He and I were on the same CIF champion relay team. The reason I can call myself a CIF champion. We used to drive to swim practice 6 a.m. in the white Civic, blasting Cult of Personality. Coach Jay, you listen to Led Zeppelin. We listen to Cult of Personality. So besides swimming, Blaine played varsity water polo here. And after graduating from the University of California, Santa Barbara, he followed in his father's footsteps and became a naval officer. He went to Naval Officers Candidate School. From there, he was assigned to fly F-18 Super Hornets. Man, it just kind of feels cool to say. He's been assigned to numerous aircraft carriers, the USS Kitty Hawk, the USS George Washington, the USS Ronald Reagan. He was a student and instructor at Top Gun. In 2015, he was named Air Force Pacific Pilot of the Year. In 2016, he was selected to participate in a program where one naval officer is asked to go fly with the Air Force, and he was trained on F-22 Raptors. Just recently, he was a commanding officer of VFA 136. While there, he was deployed to Europe, working with NATO allies. Currently, he is being asked to come back to Top Gun, this time as the commanding officer. Please welcome my good friend and classmate, Achievement Hall of Fame, Lieutenant Colonel Blaine Felony.
I'd like to start out by thanking Keith Miller for the nomination for this prestigious award. I'd like to thank the committee for approving my nomination. I'd also like to thank Sean Carter as the MC and hosting this event. It's been extremely awesome, so thank you everybody for that. I stand here extremely humbled. I don't feel like I'm deserving of this just based on doing my job in the company of such great people, coaches, athletes. So I'm truly humbled to be here. But I want to start off by first thanking my family, thanking my mom and dad that instilled in me the ethics and the traits of hard work and accountability. And I would never have had a career if it weren't for them. I'd like to thank my beautiful wife, Ashley, and how selfless she has been for the dedication of our family. She supported me, allowed me to have the career that I've had, and put her career on hold to support me. She's also raised 3 beautiful children essentially by herself, as I've been gone essentially the majority of the time in the last 3 years, either detached or deployed, and raising our beautiful 3 children, Harlow, Rhett, and Quinn. So I want to thank her. I love you. Thank you so much for that. And as I was kind of putting these words together, I was sitting here thinking about what it means to be standing here for recognition of achievement of my naval career that I've been fortunate enough to have. And the ironic thing, which I still think is funny, is I never wanted to be in the military. I never wanted to fly jets, never wanted any part of this. I graduated Mount Carmel, went to UC Santa Barbara with Susan Doryork in the back row, with Kevin Ricks, Chris Hill, some other great Mount Carmel alumni. Went up there and I studied physiology for 4 years, and I thought, I'm gonna get into the physical therapy field. And I thought that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to work with athletes and rehabilitation and get them back out on the field. So I graduated Santa Barbara, came back to San Diego, started working down here, and I realized I hated it. And it was terrifying, because that's all I'd ever thought about. That's all I ever put my eggs in one basket, and I thought this is what it was gonna be. So what did I do? I was living in PB. I took a job at Lucadia Pizzeria in Rancho Santa Fe. We used to call it Slinging Pies, and I was a delivery driver. So I was living in PB. Kevin Miller and I would wake up in the morning. We'd either surf or we'd work out. And then we would hang out for a little bit, grab some lunch, and then I had to get north to get up to Rancho Santa Fe. So I get north at 5805 merge, I go to Del Mar, and I'd surf again in the afternoon. Then I go to Lucadia Pizzeria, work from 5 to 9, tough times, and I'd leave there, a little bit of cash in my pocket, and I'd drive back down to PB, and I'd meet back up with Kevin. He was bouncing at the tavern, and we'd hang out at the tavern, have a couple beers, and that was my life. And I look back on that, and I'm like, why did you ever give that up? But there was something inside me that said, yeah, you know, there's something more. There's something more in you. So I had a brother that was flying jets for the Navy. So I looked at it and I said, you know what, I'm gonna give it a shot. So I applied to officer candidate school. I got a pilot billet. Next thing I knew, I was in the military. Shocked, you know, surfer punk kid from San Diego, now I'm in the military. And I thought, well, you know, it's not forever. I'm just gonna stick with it until I'm not having fun anymore. And now I look back on it 20 plus years later and I'm still having fun. And I think about what has kept me in the military. And the flying is always fun, right? But it's the naval aviation community I found that it's the people. It's the relationships, the community, the work ethic, the competition that has kept me in naval aviation. And I, no kidding, think it's because those are the values and traits that I grew up with here in this community. And that's what I cherish, and that's what I want and I need to be around. When we first moved here, we hit the jackpot. We moved into Trail Dust Avenue, moved across the street from the Bibers. I know a lot of people here know the Bibers. Camilla and Dave Biber, 2 of the best people I've ever met in my life. Lived up the street from Sean Carter. Went to Sundance Elementary, met Susan Doryork. I've known her since the 3rd grade. Went to middle school at Black Mountain. I met the Poyers, beat Brian Zaglansky, the Windspears, came to Mount Carmel, the Millers, they're a great family, Giamis, Enriquez's, and it's just that sense of community that I've always cherished, and these are my best friends. And they've always been my best friends growing up. And these are the people that I look back and I look to for advice. So it's that sense of community. And it's also the sense of work ethic that we all grew up with, you know, and that's through that school system, specifically here at Mount Carmel. So teachers like Mr. Dutton was an amazing teacher. Miss LT, I know I was such a punk in your class, and I'm so sorry for that. But the impact you had on me, I can never say sorry enough, and how much you meant to me. Mr. Ernest, how we used to just grab a chair, come over to our table and sit there, and we would learn about physics, but we would also, he just talked to us like humans, and it was amazing. And the coaches, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the two coaches being awarded here tonight. My older brother, till this day, swears by them. He says they had such an impact on their lives. So Mr. Joel and Mr. John, Coach Joel, Coach Johnson, thank you so much for that, because obviously that had rippling effects on me. My water polo coach, Randy Coots, and my swim coach, Dan Reinhardt, just tremendous, instilling that sense of work ethic. And so while I stand here and I'm being recognized for my achievement in my naval career, I truly think it's a reflection of the people in this room, of this community, the families, the friends that we have, and your ability to imprint on the youth of our country. And for that, I say thank you to everybody, and thank you for having me tonight.
Next is an athletics nominee. He played football here at the Mount. I mentioned earlier, if you played after him, you knew who he was, thanks to Coach Joel. He was on the first Mount Carmel team to win the Palomar League. He was first team all-league linebacker, first team all-CIF linebacker, all North County, leading tackler in the North County. He played baseball, and for them was a two-time Palomar League champion and first team all Palomar League. He went on to play football at the University of New Mexico, where he started at middle linebacker. And just like in high school, he led the team in tackles his sophomore year. Several times he was also named player of the game. He got his degree in criminal justice and went on to work for the Justice Department, first in Oakland, California, and then eventually finding his way back to New Mexico, where he currently resides. Please welcome Mr. Donnie Gassaway.
Good afternoon. It's such an honor to be here. It's great to come back to this campus. It's been 40 years. So when Coach Joel called me and told me that I was considered and chosen to be in this elite society, a couple things went through my head. First was, why me? I didn't think I was worthy. I'm glad Sean finally called my name, because as I sat in my seat and listened to all the people before me, I kept shrinking. And I thought, oh God, I better call me now, because I won't be able to see over the podium. Unfortunately, I still weighed 225 at 5'1", so that didn't look good. So I'm thankful to be here. I'm honored and humbled to be inducted into this Hall of Fame, I congratulate all the previous people that have been inducted and look forward to people in the future. I know there's several of my friends here, close friends, here to honor me, and they're shortly behind me. So they will be also inducted. I realize that, listening to all the people, and I had a chance to kind of review some of the past videos and people being inducted, and had a sense of pride. Mount Carmel, what a wonderful, wonderful high school. I always had a problem with us being, in this district and why they kept calling it Poway Unified District. Why Poway? Of all things. What the hell? I think at some point we need to call it Mount Carmel Unified School District. I also feel that as a person, I played team sports. So without my brothers, and I call them my brothers, and I'll talk a little bit about family, and then I look out into this crowd and just say, wow, what a community, and so proud of it. I also feel sorry for my sons. I have 3 sons, and they went to high school in New Mexico, and I apologize to them frequently for that. So, talk a little bit about my journey, and then, of course, thank all the people that had a role in me being here. First, I must give thanks to God, because without him, I wouldn't be here. He is my strength, and I'm thankful for that. I also want to thank Greg and the Hall of Fame committee for selecting me, and for an amazing job that they're doing. This is first class. Looked at the past, and wow, again, honored to be part of it. I can't tell you how honored I am. I'd like to talk about a few things. First, in my journey from my parents, we moved to Rancho Penasquitos in 1979 in August. Actually, September in 1979, from Hawaii. My father was a Marine, so he always used to tell me that, it's once a Marine, always a Marine. And he was very proud of that, and may he rest in peace. My mother, she was my rock. And yeah, you can say I was a mama's boy. I'm okay with that. Not too many people teased me about it, though. In moving here, like I said, September, in August, my father said he had got a job at General Dynamics in San Diego, and we were moving. And if anyone remembers going through, elementary, middle school, and getting ready to go to the high school was a big thing. And to get uprooted and say, no, you're not, I was completely devastated. Okay, got to Mount Carmel. School was already in session, about 2 weeks of it. So wasn't able to play football my freshman year. So I was really disappointed. Watched their practice. Thought I'd work on getting stronger. So in that 3rd week, I decided I was gonna go ahead and start working out and getting stronger. So as I was walking on campus, because I didn't know a soul, my sister was also a senior, so she had it pretty hard as well. She was a senior here at Mount Carmel, and so that was the only friend I had. I was walking past the corridor, and I heard the song, Stairway to Heaven. Led Zeppelin. And guess where it was coming from? You're right. It was coming from the weight room. So I thought, what a perfect thing. I'm going to go in the weight room, get bigger, stronger, faster, and do all those things. So I see this guy, he's walking in, so I try to sneak in right behind him. And we were greeted by Johnson and Treader. And as you can see in some of those pictures, when Coach Johnson came up, that's what I remember. All the hair, you could hear the weights clanging. The poor guy in front of me got peppered with some questions. Coach Johnson, what the hell do you want? The poor guy about peed in his pants, and he said, well, I'm just here to check things out. I think it was Trotter that yelled, get the hell out of here. I was next. Scared. Not sure what I was going to say, but I know I wasn't going to say that. And he said, what the hell do you want? And I said, well, I came to train. I want to lift weights. He said, come in, close the door. Thank you very much for that. When I think of my life, I think God, family, and sports. Family in Hawaiian is ohana. And I'll talk a lot about family because I think we have what we consider a sense of family here. I know we did in all the teams that we played on, and I was very happy for that. I developed some lifelong friends. Matter of fact, there's quite a few of them here today to witness that. So when you look back 45 years and still close friends, that's pretty amazing, and I'm thankful for that. My parents, as I said, Dad worked, he provided, good provider. My mother was my rock, and she had a few requests. She wanted to make sure that, I was a good kid, and for the most part, I was. And then she told me when I signed my letter of intent to go to the University of New Mexico here in the gymnasium, she asked me, son, please graduate from college. So she made me promise, and promise I did. And I'm very thankful for all the teachers, the administrators, and everyone who prepared me for that next level. When I got to New Mexico, I still had to take, I had study hall every day. But I had tutors and everyone else to help me along the way, and I achieved that. So it was great to have my mom see me at graduation and smile, and then of course she passed away 5 years later. So may they both rest in peace. I'd like to thank the teachers, the administrators here at the Mount, Don Hurst, Frank Andruski. Good men, very supportive. They laid the foundation for me to succeed. And that was something I really noticed about this community, is they want everyone to succeed. I had the privilege and the honor to play with some great teams. And man, were there some great teams. But before I get to those, and I'll close with that, I want to thank some coaches. Freshman year, played basketball, because football was done. Got to play basketball, Coach Blaylock. What a legend in himself. One of the best baseball coaches, but he was also a good basketball coach. He always told me, you'd probably be a better football player than a basketball player. And I agreed. So Coach Galfredo, my sophomore year, playing JV. Great coach, great man, and also a Hall of Famer. May he rest in peace. And again, he told me it'd probably be better if I just stuck to football. So, I don't know what it was. I thought it was a contact sport, so I treated it as such. So, loved it. The coaches that really stuck out in my head, I'll kind of save a little towards the end, but I wanted to make sure that, first of all, and I apologize for skipping through, Rudy Cachado. He was my baseball coach, JV baseball coach. What a great man, very understanding. All my coaches were outstanding. I also had Coach O'Connor in baseball. When I switched over to football, one of my best years is 1982, the year of '82. Wonderful year. In the spring of '82, Mount Carmel won another CIF championship in baseball, and I was privileged to be part of that team. Played with the greats of Shell Scott, Steve Castleberry, Rick Cortez, my brother Rick, here today. Kenny Pulsford, Darren Bosley, Tim Sinclair, Kenny Dermer, David Cortez, man, to name a few. Great team. The story I'll tell you about that was at the beginning of that year, they had just won the CIF championship the year before. So we were CIF champions. I was a sophomore, and then I became a junior, made the team, went out. We were playing somewhere down in the city, and we got off the bus to play. I noticed people were kind of coming around and looking at us, and they didn't look very friendly, but they were just looking at us. I was like, what are these guys staring at? Why are they looking at us like that? And then my brother Rick Cortez looks at me and says, hey, buddy, relax. We're Sun Devils. We're the CIF champions. And then I thought, oh yeah, that's right. So again, being able to take that opportunity to realize the caliber of people that come through here and athletes. I'm even more impressed with the contribution that people have made. Amazing. Teams, that night, that '82 team, Coach Blaylock gave us a goal, and as just a junior on the team with pretty heavy seniors, didn't really take a leadership role, but I learned a great deal from all of them, and I was proud to be part of that. Man, what a ride that was. And winning the CIF championship gave me a little time over the summer to figure out what I was going to do in the fall of '82. And that's when the journey began, really, for me. Practicing, working out with all my brothers. We made a pact that we were going to be someone different this year. But we were instilled with some principles, the 3 Ds: dedicated, disciplined, and determined. And determined to do what? To be our best. We changed that a little bit, and we thought, instead of being our best, we wanted to be the best. And that was our goal. I think Coach Christopher in himself, he was our head coach at the time. By the way, I left those 4 coaches to the end here because I wanted to honor them and tell them that they are Hall of Fame coaches. Coach Mark Tuttle, Coach Bill Christopher, and of course, an honoree today, Coach Jolk, and then Mark Oshner. What a man. Amazing man. I use those same 3 principles here today and throughout my life that helped me get me through some troubled times. And it helped me, and I, again, conveyed it to my sons. I have 3 sons, and I was able to, again, instill those same principles. They probably got tired of hearing it. I actually had it printed on one of their shirts that I coached, just to remind them. In that, we had a lot of challenges, but the camaraderie amongst us was amazing. And I think that was something that our coaches were really good at. They were able to keep us, because we were some misfits, to say the least. But we were some scrappy guys, and it was a wonderful time. I will never change it for anything. That was probably the best team that I've ever been associated with. And again, standing up here, not feeling worthy of this individual honor, I believe, like my man Marcus Lee said, we should nominate teams to be inducted, because I think that's one team that would definitely go. Marcus, we weren't as good as your team, 14-1. Wow, we were 8-5. So, but we did play in the finals. We lost to Helix, but that reminds me of the ride that we took. That was the first year Mount Carmel won the Palomar League Conference in football. And that was a battle. We took it on. Passing league the summer before, we were a very aggressive group. Coach Christopher took us to LA, and we played in a passing league tournament up there and ended up winning that tournament. We were pretty much riding a high coming back for fall practice. In that practice, we also put together a strong group offensively, and I'll name each and every one of them here in a second at the end, but I do want to say they instilled those fine principles that made us one hell of a team. And if some of you are old enough to remember that, you would certainly agree. I'd like to identify the team players on that team, all my brothers. Jeff Anderson, Gil Bartholomew, Gary Bibler, John Brandt, Brian Cash, Keith Caldron, Eric Cervantes, David Chambers, Lance Dalton, Terry Davison, Mike DeFabio, Dan Devlin, Vincent Dutilio, Jack Doobie, Offensive Player of the Year, Rahel Garland, Joe Gellimini, Defensive Player of the Year. You're next, Joe. I'm coming back for that one. Jeff Gilmore, Victor Gonzalez, Brian Garber, Charlie Hayden, Paul Lane, Eric Lee, Ed McCoy, love you, Ed, Matt Kabibi Madrala, John Miyazaki, Billy Moore, Ray Nicholas, Pat Skeeter O'Brien, Jeff Pierce, Vinny Puma, Chris Rappaport, Sean Stenson, Ron Olsifer, Jojo Valacruz, Jeff White, Tony Witterberg, Chris Yates, and Andy Young. With those players, I'd also like to recognize 4 members of that team that's no longer with us. And I pray for them. I'd ask that we have a moment of silence for them, and that would be Ray Nicholas, Andy Young, Charlie Hayden, and of course the great coach, Mark Oshner. We could have a moment of silence. Thank you. In closing, what a ride it was. Again, after full thought, still don't think that I'm worthy to stand up here and accept this prestigious honor. So I'd like to, again, remind you that family is probably the most important. With that said, I'd like to really thank my wife, Lori Carl. She was also a student here at Mount Carmel. She was a year younger, and I think when I first dated her, she was a freshman, I was a sophomore. I told her when she got her braces off, I was going to marry her. So being a man of my word, I did. 33 years, 3 children, 3 grandchildren, and got me through school. She was my real tutor. She's the one that helped me and focused and made me the focal point and helped me get that. And thank you. I love you. In closing, please realize that time is short. We never know what the good Lord will bring us. He has a plan for all of us. And I just say one thing is that you need to love as many people as you can, because tomorrow was never promised. One more story, real quick story. Last night was amazing to get to see a lot of the people at the Naughty Barrel. Okay, thought that was kind of interesting. But I did run into 2 coaches that I never had a chance to play with, and that was Hank Accarelli and Jim Dutton. I thank you guys. I told you last night I wanted to buy you a beer because I knew that you guys had, when you guys ran the snack bar or the community center, sometimes Rick Cortez and I would go there before games. We had a little ritual and we'd get something from the snack bar. And sometimes we didn't have money. Just want to let you know that was Rick's idea. Okay, so when we laughed, that was his idea, so not mine. But we thank you guys for all your service. I thank all the coaches here today. Coach Oshner is probably the one I really want to recognize. What a man. Gentle giant, loved his players. I watched him pay for school. I watched him for players after they graduated. I watched him help them. But he always gave you a big hug and told you he loved you. And that's something that I will always cherish. I'm so thankful. And thank you for allowing me to be here today.
Okay, our next inductee played football here. He still has some of the records for most pass receptions in a season, most pass receptions in a career, and most touchdown receptions. He went on to play 2 years at Palomar, earning all conference honors, as well as a football scholarship to the University of California, Berkeley. At Berkeley, he was captain of the special teams and awarded Player of the Game in a game against Washington. He signed a one-year deal to play with the Los Angeles Rams. Tragically, his life was cut short. Ray was the victim of an attempted robbery and was murdered on November 18th, 1988. The Ray of Hope Scholarship was established in honor of his name. Speaking on his behalf today is Ray's mother, Bonnie Ellis. Mount Carmel Athletics Hall of Fame inductee, Ray Nicholas.
Good afternoon, Sun Devils, family, and friends. I'm honored and happy to be here today, but I would much rather be out there in the audience with you, proudly listening to my loving, charismatic, funny, and handsome son, Ray. But of course, Ray can only be with us in spirit. And because of that, I'm a bit emotional. So please bear with me as I read my talk. And you already know how Ray died as a victim of a homicide in 1988. So I'm only going to say a few words about that because I want to focus my talk on how well Ray lived. Our family is very, very grateful that justice was served. The deranged man who shot Ray and another man earlier the same day was apprehended. He eventually pled guilty and was sentenced to 40 years to life, and he died in prison in 2021. Ray will always, always live in our hearts, and we will never forget his amazing smile and his big bear hugs. He left us with so many precious memories, and Ray expressed his feelings openly and often in writing. I have a box full of poems and essays. Who knows, who would ever think that a jock could also be a poet? Here at Mount Carmel, he had so many friends. He was very, very popular, except he couldn't stand bullies. And I understand now with all of that going on how important that was back when Ray was out at Mount Carmel. He would often stand up to bullies or the students who could not protect themselves. Ray's love for football began in 1975 when his Poway Pop Warner team made national headlines. Out of over 1,000 teams, the Poway Packers were ranked #1 in the nation. Ray was one of the best players on the team. And during an interview on TV, he flashed that big, beautiful smile, and he was hooked, and he enjoyed every minute of it. Fast forward to Mount Carmel. Ray lettered in baseball, basketball, and of course, football. He played both wide receiver and cornerback, and his name is in the record books for receptions, interceptions, and scoring. Ray made a scrapbook which includes articles and photos of the exciting Mount Carmel victory over Sweetwater that Donnie Gasaway just spoke about. That victory led us to the 1982 CIF playoffs. The game was a huge win. Sweetwater was undefeated. Their players were huge. One of their tackles was 6'5" and weighed 320 pounds. Our tackle, Joe Gerlamini, barely was 6 feet tall and weighed 170 pounds soaking wet. The game-winning touchdown was a big team effort. Ray intercepted a pass. 2 plays later, quarterback Mike DeFabio delivered a perfect bounce lateral. The pass went to Ray. Ray scrambled and finally hit Ed McCoy in the end zone for a 23-yard touchdown. Hallelujah. Coach Christopher said the play never once worked in practice. In his interview after the game, Ray praised his teammates, Joe, Mike, Tony, Donnie, and Victor. He said, "We play together as a team, as a unit. Coach Oshner has helped us a lot. He tells us to go out, play hard, and have fun." And that's exactly what we did for the win. Ray graduated from Mount Carmel in 1983. He was recruited by a few out-of-state schools, but he had his heart set on playing college in California, close to his beloved family and friends. Over the summer, he worked out religiously and was invited to walk on at San Diego State. He was redshirted. That semester, football was a lost cause because Ray majored in cute college co-eds and beer. Thankfully, Coach Kraft, the head football coach at Palomar Community College, was relentless in recruiting Ray. Ray signed on and did not disappoint. Coach Kraft stated in an interview, "Ray has tremendous range and is tough to throw on. He's the finest athlete on the team and should be highly recruited." With lots of tutoring from his stepdad, Ray earned his AA degree on schedule, and Coach Kraft was right. Ray received 15 college scholarship offers. Soon after, the infamous Joe Kapp visited our home, and Ray signed with the University of California at Berkeley. He had a great college experience there, on and off the field. He liked the diversity and the activism at the university. He volunteered to speak at schools in the Bay Area's underserved communities and received lots of thank you letters from many of the kids. Ray had some great games at Cal. He again played both offense and defense and was captain of special teams, and he was awarded the game ball at the exhibition game against Washington in Tokyo, Japan. Although his eligibility to play at Cal ran out before he could graduate because of his red shirt year at San Diego State, Ray was optimistic about his future. He was promised a grad assistant coaching position when he finished his last semester at Cal. A few Canadian football teams showed interest, but Ray was confident that he had the skills to play in the NFL. In February of 1988, Ray accepted an offer to walk on for the Los Angeles Rams. Once again, he performed well in the tryouts. He signed a 1-year contract with the LA Rams and fulfilled his goal to play at the highest level. Ray was so excited when he suited up to play against his idol, Tony Dorsett and the Dallas Cowboys. Sadly, during that game, Ray suffered a knee injury that required surgery and months of rehab. He was placed on the injured reserve list, and shortly after, he was released. Although he was disappointed, Ray remained optimistic about his future. He decided to finish his Cal degree, marry his beloved fiancée Sandra, and work as a grad assistant coach, and perhaps pursue a career in coaching. Unfortunately, Ray passed before he could realize these goals. Nonetheless, in just 23 years, he accomplished so much and was loved by so many. A lot of that love was here in the halls of Mount Carmel. Someone once said, "It's not the years in your life, it's the life in your years." To honor Ray's life, our family and the Alpha Society established the Ray of Hope Scholarship Fund. And we received a San Diego Channel 10 Leadership Award for our community service. You know, I talk to Ray all the time. I ask him to put in a good word for us to the Lord, and I ask Ray to be a guardian angel for our family and friends, to keep us safe and help us stay on the right path to do good and achieve our goals and dreams. And I think it's working, because our family and our extended family has been very, very blessed. Unfortunately, time does not permit me to acknowledge all the folks who have come to honor Ray today, but I would like to introduce Ray's family. Many of them are Mount Carmel graduates. Ray's uncle Greg is here with Ray's big brother Ardrick. AD played football and basketball here at Mount Carmel. And after service in the Air Force, he is now a teacher and counselor for the Las Vegas School District. His twin girls are here. They are college grads and exceptional artists. Ray's 12-year-old daughter is back home preparing for tomorrow's game. This little girl is the fastest runner and the best receiver on her championship flag football team. Ray's aunt, my baby sister Ernesta, is here. She is a Mount Carmel graduate and currently is a senior director for one of the largest nonprofit agencies in San Diego. All three of Ernesta's children are Mount Carmel grads. Tiana is here. She is an award-winning interior designer. AJ works in telecommunications. And Darius is a UC Santa Barbara alum, a lab technician who also rocks out as a DJ. It's so much fun having a DJ in the family. Ray's bonus sister, Vanessa, is here with her hubby, Bill, who played ball with AD and Ray. Vanessa graduated from San Jose State and works as an executive assistant. Their daughter, Natalie, graduated from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo with a degree in environmental management. We're looking forward to Natalie fixing things for us. We have a lot of pressure on you, Natalie. Ray's beloved fiancée, Sandra, is here with us. Her son, Aaron Wallace, played in the NFL for several years and is now a business executive. Ray's bestie, Geraldine Kemp, is here. She and Linda Jones were great role models for all the young women, including my daughter, Nicole, who came after them. JD's son, Gerald's name, his middle name is Ray. Gerald played quarterback at RB High and went on to play at the University of Montana. Ray's baby sister, Nicole, Mount Carmel class of 1991, is here. She played girls basketball, chick hoops as it was known back then, and is in the record books for the most rebounds during their CIF championship season. Nicole has 2 master's degrees and taught science and math for 20 years. Nicole's sons, Ray's nephews, Isaiah and Evan Mobley, are here. Both play for the Cleveland Cavaliers in the NBA. Isaiah is a rookie this year for the Cavs G team and their top scorer. Evan was NBA runner-up for Rookie of the Year last year. This year, he is rated the 3rd best defensive player in the entire NBA. And at 21 years old, he is the 2nd youngest player in NBA history to make the all-defensive first team. The first player to do so was Kobe Bryant. Last but not least, my better half, Ray's stepfather, is here. Roger, better known as Poppy, is the patriarch of our big, fun-loving family. And together we have 4 children, 7 grands, and we're looking forward to some great-grands one of these days. We've been married for 45 years, and I can't tell you, we've had our ups and downs, but certainly our family has been truly blessed, and I'm so proud of them. I'd like to close with this reminder. As Donnie said, tomorrow is not promised. So folks, live your best life to the fullest. Laugh a lot, love deeply, and never pass up an opportunity to celebrate and make beautiful memories. I'd like to congratulate all of the Mount Carmel inductees, and especially Coach Joke for nominating Ray for this honor. A heartfelt thank you to everyone here who helped Ray on his journey to be a fine athlete, but more importantly, to be a fine young man. God bless you all. Thank you very much.
Okay, we're getting close to the end here. Our next inductee is going in on the athletics side. To say he's a running rock star would probably be putting it mildly. In the field of running, he's a CIF team champion, 2-time cross-country individual champion, 2-time state cross-country champion, all 3,200 champion in track and field, all-state track and field, 2-time Mount Carmel High School Male Athlete of the Year, and 2-time San Diego Union High School Scholar Athlete. After he left Mount Carmel, he went on to do some more running at West Point, where he was 3-time All-Patriot League in cross country and was on the Army 10-miler teams. When he was in Afghanistan, he won the Honolulu Marathon, which earned him ESPN Play of the Week honors. Professionally, he has earned the U.S. Military Superintendent's Award, History of Military Award, the Law Department Award. He was also an Army Ranger in Afghanistan and in Iraq, where he was awarded 2 Bronze Star medals. He, along with his degree from West Point, he has a degree from the Interdisciplinary Center in Israel, a PhD from Tufts University. He is currently working for a small consulting firm. Athletics Hall of Fame inductee, Mike Baskin.
Definitely not most photogenic, that's for sure. Just a clarification, I was not a state champion. I was very close, but it was I was all state in cross country, and I was athlete of the year 1, so don't want to overstep. I've got 7 minutes to get all my thank yous in, express my appreciation, but I just want to note, just being here in the last 2 hours, the richness and the quality, the specialness. It's very touching to me. I'd like to thank everyone for being inducted into the Mount Carmel Hall of Fame. I'd like to congratulate all the Hall of Fame inductees today, the ones who come before us and the ones who will come after us. Well done. And it's funny to meet the Yellow Banner. Congratulations. Duke Preston, congratulations. You know, there's so much going on. Top Gun, wow, all right. Amazing. Second, I'd like to thank Greg Lanthier, all the Mount Carmel team that has made this event possible. I know there is a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes to make it happen. I also got an email several weeks ago that said, hey, tell Baskin to get his stuff in. So thank you for your patience. It is also great to see the way this initiative has recatalyzed connections with us in the school and also between us. So several years ago, I got an email from Sean Forehand saying, Mount Carmel is starting a Hall of Fame. Have you done anything since high school? I got this email and I looked at it and I said, well, it depends who's asking, professionally or athletically. Keep in mind, I played soccer with Steve Sharendolo as a kid. I was watching Eric Chavez and Eric Munson play with baseball with my brother when they were 13. Duke Preston had been in the NFL, Billy Bean, you name it. So I'm like, so I put my stuff in. And fortunately, I was accepted. The truth is, in some ways, I've done a lot, and in some ways, I've done nothing. We have a joke in our family, and if, you know, we won't say who, but if you ask someone in our family, they'd say, I haven't done a lot, but today we're going to focus on the things I have done. That's a family joke for those who know us. I would like to go briefly back in time to the 1990s. This is a time when we turned in our newspapers to the band in the Mount Carmel parking lot. It was a dirt road then to Del Mar. The end of Black Mountain Road was at the bottom of the glider ports. Oscar's breadsticks were amazing. Gas was $1.15 a gallon. Whether you got a movie from Blockbuster for 2 or 3 nights was a big decision. And the most passionate philosophical debates were about who had the best carne asada burrito in town. For cross-country and track runners, it was the time of the McClanavan, which could carry an infantry platoon of cross-country runners, high altitude and attitude training camps in Big Bear, spaghetti dinners before races. It was a dirt track at Mount Carmel then that if it rained, it flooded in lane 1. And if you ran on an all-weather track at that time, it meant it was a big meet like CIF or something else. So from this lens, I look back at a fairly serious young man, despite the cameraman made me laugh here. Probably too serious for his own good. I attended Sundance, then Sunset Hills, then Black Mountain before Mount Carmel, so I truly grew up in this community. Four-sport athlete as a freshman, football, basketball, or football, cross-country, basketball, and track. Realized I wasn't going to be Michael Jordan. Coach McClanahan invited me to run cross-country. I showed up to my first race, the Mount Carmel Invite. I brought my uniform, my sweats, a bottle of water. No one told me it was an all-day event. I didn't bring any money, didn't bring any food. I was starving by the end of the day. I borrowed money for a nachos. That was my start in cross-country. Fortunately, it turned out better. My sophomore year in track, I had a breakout season, and from there I worked really hard. I didn't eat garbage. I didn't drink soda, let alone alcohol. I didn't party, but looking back, should have gone out more. Workouts were my priority, and in a day of social media today, I didn't compare myself to others. I trusted that our coaches would give us the right workouts, and I followed them. I didn't care what other teams did or didn't do. I wasn't the prettiest runner, but I could race tough. My junior year, I ran the first cross-country race of the year, and then just kept winning. There were some races I wasn't supposed to win, including CIF cross-country as a junior, where I had gotten a bad cold. And if Mrs. Polson hadn't taken me to the doctor, the Baskin family, we didn't go to the doctor, so Mrs. Polson took me to the doctor. I don't even know if I would have been able to race that week. But things work in mysterious ways. I didn't practice all week. I didn't miss some school. My teammates ran amazingly well, and we won the CIF team championship. I was fortunate. I was able to rally, I guess is the right way to say it. And I won the individual championship, hawking up green stuff at the starting line. That spring, I came back from behind. The 3,200 meter race had gone out in 60 seconds, which is extremely fast for a high school race. It was extremely hot that day. I basically caught him at like a mile. It was neck and neck the last 100 meters, and I was able to hold on and win. I think I appreciate these things more now than I did at the time. I'm proud to say I was a student senator at Mount Carmel, and I didn't like the way the reporting was on in the high school newspaper, so I ended up writing for the high school newspaper. I attended West Point and was all-league in cross-country several times and did well academically, but I also suffered some injuries. I realized things didn't go the way I wanted them to go. I was actually ranked higher at West Point than I was in my Mount Carmel class, which shows the amount of talent that Mount Carmel has. September 11th happened my senior year at West Point, and things shifted. I went into an army that was actively engaged in a war. I ran 2 marathons in my life, one of which was a marathon in Afghanistan that I won, and as some friends and family here know, somehow made ESPN Play of the Week because I started getting these notes saying, hey, you're on ESPN. And I was like, okay, so nobody asked me, nobody told me, so it was a unique time. I run one other one in Iraq, but I got 4th. I've met 2 presidents. I've helped launch several national veterans programs, primarily in energy infrastructure, jobs for veterans. I've slogged through and completed a PhD, and I've been able to pursue in-depth meditation for my own benefits and health. But I stand before you today really with the benefit of the support of this community. I might be a little emotional here. Growing up in a single-parent household, after my mom had passed away, it is not a stretch to say that this community helped raise us. For myself, as well as my brother, a lot of families and friends in this community gave us a lot of rides. We ate a lot of meals with a lot of different families. For me, it was the Carrillos, the McDades, the Sharps, the Trembleys, the Slichters, and in high school, the Polsons and Escobels. A lot of families would schlep out to the end of Black Mountain Road, which was where we lived at the time, and pick us up and take us wherever we were, the practice or the game or the sports. I also want to note for the record, I did walk uphill to school both ways, because from our house to Mount Carmel, Black Mountain, you had to walk up Stargaze and down. And I don't think I would have been CIF champion if I didn't have to walk up and down Stargaze every day. But that's the secret, folks, is it's true. I did walk uphill back and forth both ways. I will note that this community has impacted me throughout my life. I've served in Afghanistan, I've served in Iraq, I've been in Ukraine in the last year. I've been fortunate to spend time in China, Thailand, India, Israel, Europe, and many other areas of our planet. If there's one thing that I can share, is that I'm quite proud to have grown up in such a diverse community as Rancho Penasquitos and Mount Carmel. Team potlucks and PQ were special. We had all kinds of cultures and traditions represented by all of our families. Many of my teammates or their parents spoke multiple languages. So to me, this is normal. When I got to West Point, I actually, West Point prided itself on being very diverse, and the Army did, but I felt coming from PQ, I was like, whoa, it all depends where you're from. So to me, this upbringing is a blessing. And I note this in particular because our country has very strong political divisions today. But my upbringing here is one of the few things that makes me hopeful that in the U.S., different backgrounds make us richer as a community. And also that respect, which I grew up here in PQ and Mount Carmel, can bridge all of our differences. And I know this because I grew up in it. I'd like to thank all of my coaches and teachers. I'm not going to be able to capture all of them. I do especially want to thank Coach McClanahan for all of his efforts and support over the years. I don't consider myself as hard to coach at that time, but I probably wasn't the easiest either. I also want to thank Coach Dockery, who's here today, Coach Campo, Mr. Pachilio, Mrs. LT. I had many more great teachers at Mount Carmel, and the list goes on and on. I'd also like to recognize my teammates, Jeff Slichter, Bert Romero, Christian Esquivel, Scott Bachman, Arnell Adonis, John Zanzuki, Calvin Lee, James Lee, Morales Somanathan, and Rick Sharp in track. There were many others as well. Lastly, I want to thank my family, my dad, my brother, my nephew Eitan, who's here. My girlfriend Leslie is unable to be here today as she's taking care of her mother. So, I guess life comes full circle. Come back to the beginning and say I've done a lot, and at the same time I've done nothing. Thank you for inducting me into the Mount Carmel Hall of Fame. It's a pleasure to be here, and I really appreciate this special day and time that we've had together. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to try my best to not pull a Coach Campo or Coach Miller right now, but it's going to be tough. Our last inductee tonight needs no introduction. Every one of these inductees here tonight have been touched by him, whether on the football field or in the classroom. He coached football in our community for over 40 years. He was a health teacher here. He was an assistant and a head football coach. He taught driver's ed. He is one of the most influential people in my life. Like a second father to me. The school owes a lot to him. Please welcome Mount Carmel contribution inductee, my friend, Coach Gary Jolk.
I've talked many times in this room to parents, so I never used a microphone when I talked in this room. People could hear me pretty well, so if it gets a little loud, I apologize in advance. First of all, I want to thank Greg and the committee for this honor, and I want to thank all the people that were inducted in tonight, and Bonnie, that was outstanding. That talk there, that was just tremendous. And we all love and loved Ray. Okay, that's the bottom line. I want to particularly thank 4 people that I had the honor of coaching and being a coach with. Donnie Gassaway. You know, I got to be Donnie's position coach. We formed a great relationship that standed the test of time. And Donnie, I thank you for everything you went through. I would just say this about Donnie. A lot of people don't realize this. His senior year, during two-a-days, they thought he had appendicitis. So they cut him open. He didn't have appendicitis. But they took his appendix anyway because they opened him up. And they told him at that time, your season's over. You're not going to play. Donnie said no. Donnie came back within 6 weeks, and he had the senior year that you saw right there. Ray, one of the most charismatic football players ever at this school. Everybody loved Ray, like Bonnie said. Everybody loved Ray, and he just attracted everyone. Duke Preston, the epitome of a student athlete. You know, yeah, he was a good football player, but he was even a better person and a student here, his time here at Mount Carmel. And you can see as he gets up here and talks, it's obvious that he's well-rounded in everything. And then my buddy, Coach Johnson. I love Coach Johnson. He's one of my 3 closest friends. And he's the godfather, and his wife's the godmother of our daughters. And I can't thank him enough for everything he's done in my life and my family's life. And then, because I got to get this out of the way so I don't get in trouble, I want to thank my wife, Teresa, who I dearly love. She's put up with me for 34 years, and in those 34 years I've been coaching, so a large part of the time I was away, and she got she had to take over for our daughters and do all the stuff, because I'd be coming home 8 o'clock or so at night, and I can't say it enough. I love you, and thank you for everything. And then Aaron, and okay. Well, that was because that was the coaching part there. And I want to thank my 2 daughters and Aaron's husband, Pete, for the support and just the love that we have for one another. In 1975, I got a phone call from the football coach at Poway High School. And so he said, I want you to come down for an interview. So I said, okay. So I came down because I wanted to get out of LA. And I came down to interview. I went to the district office. I walked in the district office, and this man goes, are you here for an interview? I said, yes. He said, well, follow me. So I went this way. I wasn't supposed to go this way. I was supposed to go that way, wait for someone else to come out. That guy was Dave Stein, the principal at Mount Carmel High School. So Dave sat me down. He talked to me for a little while. Then he sent me to another room, and you old-timers will recognize this person, Chuck Ward. He sent me over to see Chuck Ward. I talked with Chuck Ward, and then they decided they're going to send me over to Mount Carmel. And so I came over to Mount Carmel. I interviewed here, and I was fortunate enough to get hired. And so began a 38-year career. And back in the day, I must thank John Self, who was the first varsity head football coach, because John, along with the rest of the coaches, we formed a bond, and we kept it going. In fact, I can say this right now. John never put your name on anything. John, when he passed out the notebooks and practice plans, he was number 1. Frank was number 2. Tom McKinney was number 3. Ron Treader back there was number 4. Dennis McClanahan was 5, Coach Tuttle over there was number 6, and I was number 8. And Dave Murphy, who was the head freshman coach at that time, he was number 7. And so it began at Mount Carmel. And when I started out here, along with Ron Treader, a year later, Glenn Johnson, we had a small group of teachers, students, administrators, support staff, and we had one goal: to make Mount Carmel a top-notch high school. 50 years later, almost 50 years later, you decide, you go through this school, you see all the plaques, you see everything in there for athletics, for academics. We succeeded. I think we succeeded. And those people bonded together. Now, what I'd like to do real quick here is go down memory lane and say thank you to some people. The first 2 people I want to thank are my big sisters. The late Ann Kraft and the crazy Maggie Williams. Okay? They were our big sisters, so when Glenn Johnson and Ron Treader and myself, who were young and made poor choices, when we do stuff wrong, they'd let us know what we did wrong. And when we did something right, they'd come back and they'd let us know what we did right. I'd like to also thank that first football staff, because Tom McKinney, Ron Treader, and Glenn Johnson and we've stayed friends for all those years. And it's been a blessing to have those guys there and to have them be part of my family, because I consider them to be family. I want to thank also, in the late 70s, some other people came on here to Mount Carmel. Hopefully this brings a smile to some people's face. Some guy named Joe McEachran. And we called Joe Captain Radical, because he was the union rep, and he would do anything to stir the pot a little bit. But he was a great teacher. And I'll tell you about Joe McEachran, what a great teacher he was. So my one daughter has anxiety, and so she's taking a math class. And she was getting stressed out in that math class, and she was almost in tears. And so I called Joe up, and Joe started talking to her on the phone. Within 15 minutes, she's smiling, she's laughing, and she understood that math assignment. I want to thank another guy, Harold Dorr. Harold Dorr in the science department, oceanography, and biology. Just a great man who cared about kids. I want to thank Joyce Dalbert. Joyce Dalbert, a Spanish teacher. She loved kids. She would do anything for kids, and she was just dynamic. Marie Cashin, another one. Marie Cashin, another Spanish teacher that was just phenomenal in everything she did. Towards the early 80s, John Self moved on, and another guy came in, Bill Christopher. He became the head football coach, and he brought in with him, you've already heard his name a couple times here tonight, Coach Oxner. Coach Christopher is about this big, Coach Oxner is this big. And they were our 2 head coaches. They did a phenomenal job, and they're the ones that got us to the CIF championship game in 1982. That Coach Tuttle over there and we got to be part of that group. And it's a time that we'll never forget. It was one of the most awesome times in the history. And I got to watch Donnie Gassaway and Rahel Gerlin. That was quite a treat for me to get to coach those guys. Also during that time, that's when we developed what you guys still today call the Sun Devil Way. And that Sun Devil Way, there was a committee, Phil Factor and I and some other people were on that committee. It was about treating people right on campus, doing the right thing, accepting differences between people. And when you see a piece of trash on the ground, don't walk past the trash. Get over there and pick it up and throw it away. You know why? Because that's a Sun Devil way. That's the way we do things at Mount Carmel. And that's been beat into everybody. It's even going on today, because I still see the signs up there about the Sun Devil way. In the late 80s, I was very fortunate enough to get to coach 2 crazy guys. Well, not crazy. These were actually the 2 calmest guys I coached. Jojo Reyes and Marcus Lee. And now today, they call him Dr. Reyes. And Marcus Lee, he flies for FedEx. And everything you could want as a coach, to see people be a student first and an athlete second, because with Coach Christopher and Coach Self, that's what we stress. You're a student first, you're an athlete second. Always conduct yourself on this campus in the right way, because that's the expectations we have for the Sun Devils. And then I got one of the biggest challenges of my life. In 1989, the titter, and here's the greatest thing about the titter, though. Here's what his dad said to me. He said, Gary, I don't care what you do, make him a football player. I give you carte blanche. You're never going to hear anything from me. Just make the titter a football player. So I just did what his dad said. And the titter made all league. The titter graduated from high school, and the titter went to Cal Poly SLO. And, Titter, I got to give you credit for that, because my daughter went there. They don't let anybody into Cal Poly. You got to work a little bit to get in there. I know that. All right? As we ventured into the 90s, I got to coach a couple other people, and I became department chair of the health department as Mount Carmel was going through some transitions there. And a guy by the name of Kenny Pohl and Sam Herrick. Both phenomenal people, great students, great football players, and then a couple years later, the Miller brothers. I got to coach the Miller brothers. And you know what? Coaching the Miller brothers, it was easy, because their parents had done such a phenomenal job with them that it was one of the easiest things I had to do. It was one of the most fulfilling things that I got to do in that. As we ventured into the late 90s, some teachers that you still have here today, they came up on the scene. That little lady up back there, Patsy Malta. So Patsy Malta came in, and she, Patsy's this big right here, and Patsy had this friend named Miss T. And so here's the deal. I used to have these older sisters in my early days, and now I got younger sisters, and my younger sisters, they're telling me what I'm doing wrong and if I'm doing stuff right. And so, once again, Patsy, Jose Campo, I was lucky enough to hire Coach Green. I got to be part of the hiring process for Coach Green. I got enough to be in the hiring process for Coach Carter. So you get to see all the stuff come around. But what I'm really saying here is, it's the Sun Devil way. It's this community. It's teachers, students working together along with the administration and the support staff. Everybody has one goal: to make this school the best school it can be. And as I said before, through almost 50 years, I think it's happened. You have to make that decision yourself. The last thing I'd like to say, there's a couple things I'd like to say. First of all, I got to thank my buddies who I got to coach with for the last 20 years. It's at a different high school. I won't say the name. But I got to coach with these guys for 20 years, and it's been an honor. Those guys have been fantastic for me, and I can't thank them enough. And I'm going to close with my two biggest memories at Mount Carmel. And Donnie and Ray and Coach Tuttle, you're in the first one. And somebody already talked about it. You go down to Sweetwater to play in a neutral site in 1982. A neutral site, you're playing Sweetwater at Southwestern Stadium? I guess so. So we're in our locker room getting ready to play, and they start banging on the door. They're telling us what they're going to do to us. That was the wrong thing to do to Donnie Gassaway and Rahel Garland, to Ed McCoy, to Mike DeFabio. That just fired those guys up. And they went out there and they beat them. And you know what? I can't describe, even today, I can't describe what it's like to see the stands on the South Sweetwater side just walk away from this fully packed stadium. And the people from Mount Carmel swarming the field, it was like we were in Disneyland or something. It was a time, it's a feeling you'd never forget. Okay, 2 things and I'm done, because I see one guy, I skipped ahead. Coach Kamen, over here. Coach, raise your hand, please. Coach Kamen became the head coach in 1990. Coach Kamen gave me more responsibility, and I appreciate so much what I learned from you. And behind you, I have the guy called Johnny Point Loma. And the reason I call him Johnny Point Loma, John Anderson was a former football coach, the head football coach here at Mount Carmel. And he also went to Point Loma High School. And so in 1987, there was some controversy, but he still backs Point Loma on that part right there. And that's okay. Now it's lastly. Now I'm on my last one right here. As an educator, this is my greatest moment as an educator at Mount Carmel High School. It happened twice. When I got to give my 2 daughters, Erin and Glen Ann, when I got to be on the podium for graduation, and I got to give them their diplomas. That was an awesome feeling to see that where they got to and where they were going, and I got to be part of it. So for Mount Carmel and for all you people, I thank you for everything for 38 years. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, that brings us to the end of our program. I just want to thank you all for coming out tonight. I'd like to thank the committee. If you're on the committee, can you please stand up so everyone can recognize the Hall of Fame committee? Thank you. I'd also like to thank Coach Carvajal. He's up there in the booth. He wants this to be over because he's got prom later tonight. So, the kids can wait. It's fine. Also, we have some student techs that came here. They got prom tonight too, and they're here working for this, and I want to thank them. Emily Comstock, she's out there setting up for the reception. And I would be remiss if we didn't thank Greg Lanphier. He couldn't make it here tonight. He had a previous engagement. He's the basketball coach here, and he had something going on. But he's retiring. And him and his family are moving to Colorado. But he tells me he's still going to come back for these ceremonies. So I want to thank Greg Lanphier. I hope you had a good time tonight. I just want to say thank you to all the inductees. Please come back. Please join us. Coach Jolk mentioned Mount Carmel is turning 50 years next year. It'll be our 50th year, so we got a lot of stuff planned. So a committee will be putting some stuff together, so please come back. After we leave here, we're going to go to, all the inductees will come up on stage for a photo. If you need to exchange your sweater, I have some back here that I can change out for you. And then we'll head on over to the Hall of Fame room for some light refreshments and some photos. So I leave you with these words from the great Gary Jolk. Have a great day. You know why? It's great to be a Sun Devil. Thank you. Have a great one.